Hello everybody, this is Wet Bread here, back from Team Chemical Toast. Every Monday I upload, and we're going to finish the story here, part 2 of Sweet Apple Massacre, and we were in the part where, well, let's just say it was really bloody, and which is, it's getting better, it's getting there, and it's, again, if you guys are feeling very offended by it, please click off the video, because this is only meant for, comedy and humor. But please, if you're offended by it, just click off the video. It's all good, dude. It's no problem. Anyway, without further ado, Sweet Apple Massacre Part 2. As Scootaloo retched and spat and cried, he turned to Sweetie Belle. He grabbed her easily as she was too shocked and traumatized to respond. And with apparent amusement, he rammed her horn up Scootaloo's ass. The horn was too big and hard, so the skin around Scootaloo's ass ripped, and blood and fecal matter first trickled and then poured profusely down onto Sweetie Belle's face, as well as urine as Scootaloo pissed herself. "You keep doing that, Sweetie Belle," he said. The unicorn carried upon pushing her horn up Scootaloo's anus. Slowly but surely, he normally well-groomed pink and purple mane was now stained, a reddish-brown, glistening from the wetness of the piss and blood. "If you stop, I'll come over there and get creative. I may seem a bit dense, but I'm actually quite a creative stallion, you know," Macintosh said, with a wink. "Yep." He went to Apple Bloom and penetrated her little sister's unconscious body with his hard cock, while he violated her and another knife, this one sharp and shiny, and sliced open her flank, causing her glistening intestines to flap out wetly onto the floor. He glanced over, and was pleased to see what Sweetie Belle was still using her horn to actually penetrate Scootaloo in the anus, and her face was now completely covered in blood and faces and urine. He turned his attention back to Apple Bloom and scooped up her crimson entrails and wrapped them around her neck, still fucking the filly, and with his front hooves, he pulled until it was wrapped so tightly around Apple Bloom's neck that it broke her windpipe. She was now surely dead, but Macintosh still continued fucking her furiously until her body began to lose form and collapse into a quivering, amorphous mass of fur and blood and flesh. The perineum had basically fallen away, leaving a single red and raw gaping void. He carried on until he was fucking nothing but a single swollen and bloody uriface, and then discarded his baby sister's carcass as though she were nothing more than a rotten apple core. He then took the knife and grabbed Sweetie Belle and tossed her aside. He forced himself onto Scootaloo's ruined anus, and then took the knife and cut her an ass in a sweeping motion up to her belly, and then all the innards fell out. He then grabbed her head, twisted and tore it clean off, using his immense strength, and fucked it in the mouth and then tossed it aside. He then had sex with her headless body, both in the vagina and in the ass, until he got bored. Sweetie Belle was the last remaining Creedy Mark Crusader. She was herself barely conscious, overcome by the nauseous stretch of blood, shit, and piss that covered her horn and her face. Then Macintosh pinned Sweetie Belle down on his hoof, and then plunged the knife into her green eye and twisted, causing vitreous fluid to dribble out onto the handle. At that, Sweetie Belle left out a throaty whine and involuntarily emptied her bowels, and an aroma of fresh urine and feces filled the apple cider once again. He withdrew the knife and did the same to the other eye, each time holding her tight and sticking his hoof into her mouth to silence her agonized screams. He licked the hacking vitreous fluid that had leaked onto the knife and then methodically began cutting and hacking at her front left hoof using the rusty knife. The knife was quite blunt, so it took a Herculean effort to get through the skin, bone, and cartilage. But eventually, the bone splintered and the leg came off. He did the same to her other legs until all four were amputated and nothing remained but bloody stumps, with slimy wet ligament and broken bone shards hanging out. At some point, Sweetie Belle had passed out, the overwhelming pain too much for her to bear. He then used the knife to gouge out her left eye and jammed his penis right into her eye socket, penetrating deeply and repetitively deep into her brain, enjoying how tight her skull felt on his throbbing penis. As he twisted Sweetie Belle's neck. After he had finished skull-fucking her, he cracked open her skull with a swift stamp of the hoof and bent down and ate some of the exposed brain. Man, this is disgusting. Taking care to spit out a few fragments of the bone and the skull, it stuck to the back of his throat. He swallowed and then raped Sweetie Belle in the ass until it tore open and his engorged penis was smeared with what little fecal matter remained in the rectum. He took one of Sweetie Belle's detached legs and shoved it inside of her ass, and then fucked Apple Bloom and Scootaloo's bodies the same way, forcing the amputated limb in hoof first as far as it could go. He then thought how strange it was that the limp still were torn flesh that he was fucking with Sweetie Belle's leg had been so vibrant and so alive such a short time ago. But now all three were dead, and he finished by spurting his voluminous load into Apple Bloom's destroying backside. He watched satisfaction as the semen and blood and shit mixed together, forming a foamy maroon pool. He bent down and greedily lapped up some of it with his tongue, pressing his tongue into her anal cavity so as not to miss any, letting some dribbling down his chin. It tasted foul, of course, a rancid, tingy slime that burned his throat, but it felt so satisfying. He swallowed the filthy goo and wiped his mouth with a hoof. It was done. Big Macintosh would finally get his peace and quiet. Big Macintosh, you down there? It was Applejack. He looked at the disfigured corpses of the three fillies, all now barely recognizable as the oh-so-sweet Cutie Mark Crusaders, and realized he felt strangely unsatisfied. It had all been a bit too quick and easy. Now Applejack, that would be a challenge. She was Ponyville's best athlete after all. She even had the prize Pony of Ponyville trophy to prove it. And of course, he still hadn't forgiven her for that injury. He felt his penis stuffed once again in anticipation. Hey, Big Mac, I said, are you still down there? Came Applejack's lifting voice again, this time more insistent. Big Macintosh replied sternly, I sure am, sis. Hey, come down here for a minute. I've got something to show you. Sure thing, what's in it? It's a surprise. Oh boy, I do love surprises. Something real nice, I bet. Something real nice. Macintosh looked at the mangled, mutilated remains, and then he said, yep. So if you guys enjoyed, that was part 2 of the Sweet Apple Massacre series. And more to come next Monday as I read a Jimmy Neutron fanfic. Stay tuned. This has been Wet Bread, and I'll see you guys later.